Let's look at how to make 3-stitch over 3-stitch and 2-stitch over 3-stitch or 3-stitch over 2-stitch cables. These are some of the most commonly used and simplest machine knitted cables. This video accompanies my upcoming book called Mostly Classic Cables. Let's make one of the most classic cables that you could make on a knitting machine. The 3x3 or 3 over 3 cable. We're going to use these 6 stitches, the ones I have my tools aligned with. In each case, we pull forward and back so as to get all the stitches off of the machine needles and onto the tools. 3-prong tool for each set. Now cross them, either right over left or left over right. I'm doing right over left. And make a good rotational movement to get them back up onto the needles. The second batch is harder. Very easy to drop one off. And you can see these needles are under some stress. So there is a trick that we can do. Traditionally, we set off the cable by a column of purl or tuck rib anyway. So if we drop those stitches, because we're going to need to relatch them anyway, we've significantly eased the pressure on the yarn and the needles. Another trick. This is some work. These stitches are tight on their needles and pushing through is hard. If I do it and don't require the carriage to do it, I've saved the carriage some stress and increased my chances of success. And traditionally, on a 6-stitch cable that is 3 over 3, you can have a 6-stitch cable configured some other way. But traditionally for this one, we knit 6 rows between the crosses. If you make fewer rows, your rope will be more tightly twisted in appearance, and it'll be more relaxed if you knit more rows. Now I'm going to repeat what I did, but normally instead of waiting to see, I just go ahead and drop these stitches, which reduces the stress on everybody, including me. Come on, you latch. The 3 on the left are picked up. The 3 on the right are picked up. Now, I happen to know that I did right first and then left. It is okay if you do left and then right. The cable will twist in the opposite direction. There are times when you want to be certain of doing one on one side of the sweater and one on the other for symmetry. Up the center of the sweater doesn't matter, but what does matter is that you be consistent. I pull forward all the stitches that are involved in the cable, knit 6 rows, and of course, by pulling these needles that had the drop stitches on them towards me, I ensured that they would pick up and knit again. Drop them again. They start to run, but we don't care. It's building in some ease so that neither the yarn nor the needles are under all that much stress. Cross the stitches. It's much easier to seat the stitches on the new needles with the ease created by that dropped column. And I'm going to go off camera and knit 6 rows, and then we'll go to the next step. It's time for our next cable cross. So we'll go ahead and do that. And then every so often, going all the way up the work, we need to fix that dropped column of stitches. It is okay and totally possible to wait till the whole piece is knitted. But if it's something as large as an adult sweater front or a scarf, that gets to be tedious. All right, I'm going to come all the way down to the bottom of my work. I had a couple false starts below that. Normally you'd be going down to the cast on. but I am not because my cast on is a mess However, for a demo, it really doesn't matter. Now, I am latching up this column as pearls, but I've decided to do it as tuck rib, which means go behind one rung, grab the next, pull it through, and so on up the work. Here's the thing about tuck rib. It widens a little bit over a single column of rib stitches, so it actually shows off the cable better. Also, a cable tends to pull the fabric in and shorten it both because of the pressure we've placed it under, or pressure we've placed the knitting under. Tuck rib slightly shortens and widens the fabric where it appears, and the two things harmonize quite well. And when I get to the very top stitch, I could hang it on the needle, but I'm going to choose not to just leave the latch tool hanging in the last stitch so I don't lose it. It's best if you have two latch tools so that there can be one on each side, because if I latched this very last one and hung it on, I would lose the flexibility that it's giving this row. While I latch these, let's talk about why they couldn't have been on the river. The answer is they could have been on the river, and if you were not having a problem with stress on the needles, and you would like to do that, feel free. You can even make tuck rib on the river by having the carriage tuck one direction and knit the other direction. But you do lose the advantage of creating the ease by dropping the stitches. So if you need that, then you would rather do it by hand. So second latch tool in hand, here I come up. Behind one rung, grab the next and pull through. If you prefer for some reason to do a traditional column of purl stitches where every single rung is used, that's okay. I was clumsy with my left thumb and I dropped the other latch tool. That's okay, I can rescue it shortly. If anything unravels, I can knit it back, no biggie. Okay, this will wait till next time. Now, I went off camera and I changed the setup. There are now 5 stitches here, not 6. This is for occasions when you just cannot get 3/3 to work well for you. 2/3 looks quite similar and puts a little less stress on everything. So 2-prong tool on the right. Actually, it's a 7-prong tool, but only 2 prongs are in use. 3-prong tool on the left. And the same thing as before. Knit 6 rows and repeat. My 6 rows are knitted. Dropping the adjacent stitches. Getting the cable stitches onto their transfer tools. Crossing them. Reseating them. Knit 6 rows and repeat. I've done what I just showed you a couple more times. I'm going to place the yarn marker in this row and change what we're doing just so that you can see there are alternative methods of using the 5-stitch technique. We could select 2 stitches from the left and 3 from the right, which you can reverse anytime you want, as discussed already. But what would happen if the 3 stitches got crossed ahead of the 2 stitches? And I thought we'd just do a few so that you can compare, and that way you'll be able to choose the look you prefer. in any given circumstance. Drop the easing stitches. Two from the left, three from the right, but the most important change is that the three are crossing ahead of or over the two. Over is accurate because they will literally be over the other stitches. The ones that you cross first are the ones that appear on top of the fabric. And we'll do this one more time, and then I'll go off camera, finish the swatch, and we'll look at it. 2, 3, 3, over, 2. And of course, I'll knit a few rows. I'll finish the latching up and see you in a minute. Here are the resulting swatches. Down the center, 3 over 3 cable. On the right, 2 over 3 cable, where we placed the 2 stitches on their new home sooner than the 3 stitches. And you can see it's as wide almost, but it's not as puffy looking. On the left, 3 over 2, which looks very, very close to 3 over 3 to my eyes. Now, just for fun, here is a sneak peek at some of the patterns that will be in my shortly to be released, probably very early in 2020, new book on machine knitting cables. It will be called Mostly Classic Cables.